So says YouTube. Okay, I know. So the topic today. Trying to get into the mood. Who am I kidding? I was good at this. We all are. This is what they teach and please say. Love yourself. No, they don't say love yourself. They say hate yourself. Hate yourself. Why? I know exactly why. Why do we spread a message of hating yourself? So that everybody else can tell you how awesome you are. No, I'm not a hero. Yeah, you're a hero! Thank you, but no. But thank you. But really? Right? I look so ugly in this sweater. I look so ugly. I love that sweater. No, it's a stupid sweater. It's a stupid sweater. I think it's an awesome sweater. Thanks. I guess. Oh my gosh. I thought it was an awesome sweater. Yes. It worked. That's why self-hatred, guys. Because it works. I think it's more prevalent than you are aware. I think self-hatred is what causes lots and lots and lots of arguments, lots and lots of prejudice. I think that self-hatred is why many people don't get along. Let's say there's this ideology. We'll identify it by the letter C, like the programming language in computers. C. We'll just identify it. It has nothing to do with the computer programming language. I'm just saying, like C, the programming language. All right. So, let's say there's this ideology that indicates that you need to be perfect. Okay? And it mostly defines what perfect is. Mostly. Says that you can't be perfect and proves it ad infinitum. This ideology tells you that you should be perfect and that you can't be. That's not a contradiction, because this ideology also presents and offers an opportunity for perfection external to your own abilities. And it's always like, well, what's the catch? Always with a dill, right? You have amazing, that dill sounds too good to be true. I hear you. The catch is that you have to change the way that you think. You have to admit not self-hatred, but you have to recognize, this is how this is tying in. I'm getting to the point. This ideology recognized by the letter C causes a person, requires a person, I should say, to recognize the underpinnings of why anybody would have self-hatred in the first place. Right? At least one person will get what I'm saying. At least one. Though millions may watch this, millions perhaps, at least one will understand this, even if that be only myself. It's okay, because I have a point. I think you see it, one of you. I did say I could read your mind. I could be fabricating some elements of my self-report from time to time on this channel. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. All right, so back to self-hatred. I don't really know why I brought that up, the C ideology. Oh yeah, I mean, it just has to do with perfection and how folks I guess it looks like I'm not, because I use the bottom of the steering wheel so much. It's like, what is he doing? Every now and then it looks like, what is he doing? I do have also 3 hands. All right. Self-hatred. There are people groups that are accused of self-hatred, whether it be ethnic self-hatred, racial it is safe to say self-hate. It's a safe thing to do, except not statistically. There's high correlations between self-harm and self-hatred. Yeah. And then there's the harm that happens socially as a result of all of your self-hatred indoctrination. Yes, you heard me right. There is a massive amount of self-hatred indoctrination. Folks enjoy spreading their ideologies of self-hatred and calling it something else, by the way. So, for instance, we'll go back to one of my previously discussed ideas, one that I understand you to I have to yawn. I guess it's just that time of day. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's involved, associated with self-hatred. That's why I was yawning. All right, so blonde privilege was discussed. And I understand that you think that that's one of the majorly lesser issues. I get it. It's fine. I wasn't trying to minimize any of the more potentially legitimate issues. Whatever you identify with as the most important, fine. Obviously, because as I discussed in my last video, whatever your opinion is going to be more objectively true forever. So we already have discussed that. So if you think that there's a more legitimate issue than blonde privilege, you're right. There is no contradiction. No contradiction. I said it was one of the most important, and what I said was true, and whatever you say is true. Again, we've already disproven that there's such a thing as contradiction. Okay? Contradiction doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Okay? Contradiction doesn't exist. And even if I say that contradiction exists and that contradiction doesn't exist, and those are different things, they're both true. They're both true. It's fine. It's fine. Some of you are mathematically minded. You're going to be like, well, then you're placing some form of a hierarchy and a value system on your form of use of logic and different phrases depending on their conditions will always supersede another. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It sounds like you're speaking Carmex. A man's putting Carmex on in his car. Too bad it wasn't at a Carmex facility, because that just would be the, what's the word, penultimate? I don't know. It'd be an Uber experience. Not be confused with that German taxi company called Over in German. It's okay if you don't know language. Neither do I. I think I was talking about self-hatred, a topic that's worth discussing. And there's these people that share their ideologies, and it infiltrates society. So what it looks like is this. It's really twisted. When you see someone criticizing someone else that doesn't look or think, I want you to recognize that there is a high likelihood that they have self-hatred, which is a good thing. Let's be, I know where you were going. You're like, oh my gosh, this is controversial. No, there's, as our old comment, that show that was about nothing, I think it was Centerfeld, some old show in the 90s. Whatever, you know the show. They said not that there's anything wrong with that, and I'm going to use that phrase too from time to time. Not that there's anything wrong with that, self-hatred, right? Because at the beginning of the video, I tried to make very clear that self-hatred is a wonderful thing. I said it the other day. I'm going to keep on saying it unless I don't, which again will not be a contradiction, because there's no such thing as contradictions. Even contradiction itself is itself not a contradiction by definition, because there's a definition for contradiction. One day, my words will influence millions, maybe billions of people, or numbers are irrelevant. Irregardless, all right? I'm going to say so many things that it's going to make you beg for language to be defined in a dictionary much, much smaller. The less words there are to mess up, the better. Listen, people are taking words and destroying their abusing their definition to the nth degree. Already, I'm just trying to bring it to the forefront of your imagination. So a lot of what I say is not going to make sense. I don't even understand it. Except I do, because it's my opinion filtered through cheesecloth. So it's going to sound cheesy in a lot of ways. Because I am filtering what I'm saying, but I'm not censoring what I'm saying. Yeah, wrap your cheesecloth around that and don't smoke it, because smoking is obviously bad. Obviously. Anyway, let's go back to some self-hatred. Woo! Gotta love it. Got to. You have to. It's in the definition of the word self. It's all about you. What's not to love? Right? What's not to love? You're gonna say, but listen, you're really confusing me. You keep saying love and you keep saying hate at the same time. Those are opposites. Well, I'm gonna give this one for you. What does hate mean? hate is actually defined by a purposeful negligence of attention. Yes, I'm laughing because it's actually hilarious. The greatest form of hate is negligence. I'll just put it that way. Greatest form of hatred is negligence. So yes, shunning is a form of hatred. I know some of you are starting to wonder, wait, so how do you ignore yourself? I don't know, become a hippie or a hipster. That's a form of neglect, right? I don't know. Self-care is completely thrown out the window. You just offended a lot of people there. Yeah, listen, take this seriously and you have serious problems. If you don't take this seriously and you somehow unravel the cheesecloth that I'm filtering this information through, then you won't have serious problems. You will have serious solutions to serious problems. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because if I say too much more, I'll provide the codex for the unraveling. Yep. That's what I'm going to say. All right. So self-hatred can't exist because hatred is neglect, although we know that hatred does exist of the self because there are certainly people that neglect themselves. All right, so how is self-love? What is self-love? That would be great attention to yourself above others. This is also known by the word narcissism, which, in contrast, that also doesn't exist. I understand contrast, contradictions. Just follow what I say regardless of whether or not it's logically consistent, because I don't believe in logic. You should know this by now, obviously. So narcissism contrasted to self-hatred. How are they the same and also different? Well, they are the same because in reality, self-hatred requires somebody to focus on the elements of themselves. Therefore, by loving themselves, therefore loving themselves in the deep analysis of the components that make them who they are, okay? This is significant. What I'm trying to say is you can't escape it. It's all about self. So they say one of the easiest ways to stop prejudice, on a serious note. Yeah, I know I'm doing a little code, little baseball talk. On a serious note, they say that the easiest way to prevent prejudice is to stop thinking about yourself and to think about the other person as if they were yourself. Walk a mile in someone else's shoes. In a more simple way of putting it, if you get to know the other person, beyond just the components that you believe make up that person, that you are holding the prejudiced thoughts against, because in reality you're not prejudiced against a person. You're prejudiced against ideas. that you're associating with a person. So, that was strange. So the real question is, what is a person? And yes, this does tie into self-hatred as my topic, okay? It's all related. It's all related, okay? What is a person? What is a person? This is a topic that has been discussed for thousands of years, even though we don't care about history. Don't get me wrong. Also, a little precursor. I want to give a little hint that I am so excited about doing an episode on my favorite phrases. I'm gonna do a whole shenanigan about my favorite phrases. Phrases like, to be honest. Right? That's one of my number one favorite phrases. Gosh. Everybody needs a place marker to start listening. It's all right. I don't want to get distracted, but I'm just letting you know. I'm gonna be talking about that one soon. Maybe tomorrow. As we all know, what does tomorrow even mean? Well, if I don't believe in history as a real thing that matters, I also don't believe in the future. I'm going to say that again just in case the GlueTube people stitch that one. I don't believe in the future either. Why? Because there isn't a future. There isn't. It's just now. Only now. Right now. I only believe in right now. Whatever that is. You're like, yeah, but you had to have known. No, how could I have? How could I have known that was going to happen in the future? Because you can't know. It's something else. You don't know that there's a future. You don't. You can't know that there's a future. You can't. What? You're going to base the existence of the future on your hypothetical perception of the past? You hypothetically know what happened in the past? You're like, well, we clearly have a record of it. And I mean, even what you're saying right now there is all being recorded. And if you go back in the future, right, to look at your video, you'll see that something happened. How do I know? I only know that what I'm watching is in the present. Well, you're like, yeah, but there can't be two of you, logically. But I don't believe in logic, so what? What are you going to do with that? All right, self-hatred. The kind of self-hatred that you have when you're at a donut store, you're like, I should probably only eat one, but I know I'm about to eat 3 or 5. And in the course of the day, probably the whole half dozen. Now, yeah, you have a major reason to have self-hatred if you're like, no, not a half dozen, the whole dozen. Yeah, hate yourself for sure. Good grief. But that's kind of self-hatred I'm talking about. Just loathing, despise, the woe of it. The great. Guys, definitely a government agent. Definitely a government agent. The loathing, the woe. W-O-E. Whoa. Alright, what is a person? This age-old question. What What is a person? Is a person the accumulation of their actions? Is that what a person is? Well, let's ask the opposite. Is a person that does nothing still a person? Well, okay then. A person is merely the thoughts that they have. That's what makes a person a person. Okay, first of all, I don't know how you define a thought. Because in a lot of ways, okay, can you measure thought? Yeah, kind of, right? We have tools for that. But if you hook those tools up to, maybe one of you someday will know the name of the thing that you stick your fingers on, the glass ball with the electricity. It's somewhere in there, right? Maybe that's what makes me a person. The fact that I can't remember something that I know is inside of my brain, tucked away. Maybe that's what makes me a person. Yeah, it's terrible. But if you stick the electrodes up to that glass ball, could you potentially get the same reading? So the question is, if a person is only the existence of thoughts, and that's measured through electrical impulses, then by that definition, we could pretty much say that a person is anything with electricity. So a potato in lemon juice is a person. Whatever that, you know what I'm talking about. The little ancient Egyptian batteries with potatoes and lemon juice, something along those lines. It has to do with acid, and some of you more sciencey people are like, yeah. Okay. What is a person? What is a person? This is the most important question, especially in regards to self-hatred. So, well, a person is the combination of multiple components. There's not a, okay, floating island of grass. That's cool. They're the combination of thoughts and flesh and genetic material. You can't define a person by only one thing. A person is all of these things and more that we haven't quite come to understand yet. Okay. You have the fun old saying. I think it was Old MacDonald that made this statement. I think, therefore I am. Which obviously Old MacDonald knew Latin and French. Cogito ergo sum. Something like that. Old MacDonald, he was a smart fella. Some people called him Rene Descartes, but I don't know. I just thought they were talking about his wheelbarrow when they said Descartes. I don't know. Alright, so you're like, you've really not gone anywhere with the subject of self-hatred. You really haven't said much of anything. Well, that means that either too much is to be said, or not enough material is there to really substantiate a good discussion. I don't know. I don't know. Why would I say that self-hatred's a good thing? Why would I say that? Self-hatred has to do with identifying components of yourself that you're displeased with, and you want to, let's not go there. Let's not say that it indicates that you'll do anything about it. Let's just stick with that. I'm going to go to a different topic here. Those that are criticizing a people group for oppressing them, like all brown-haired people, like all brown-haired people have obviously oppressed against the blonde. This is the opposite of true, obviously. So don't get, it's just for example's sake. It's just for example's sake. So if somebody says all brown-haired people have oppressed against blondes because blondes never had an opportunity, blondes, I'm just making this up as I go. Don't take, like, it's not allegorical or metaphorical. It's not. It's literally not in any way. And I mean that so sincerely and seriously, okay? It's not a metaphor. I don't mean it to mean something else. It's none of that, okay? Just chill. Just chill. Okay? For real. God. People freaking out. Okay. So like, the blonde person identifies some characteristics of how they've been oppressed. Everybody, yeah, it doesn't even have to be brown hair. Everybody says that blondes are dumb. We'll just go with that one. Okay? There's two ways a person can do this, right? Two ways. One person can say, it has been said that blondes are dumb. However, that's not true. Let me help you understand how that's not true. Okay? That's one method. I don't know why anybody would ever use that method. That doesn't sound like the most effective way of conveying your opinions and perspective and all that stuff. It doesn't. If that's not the most effective method, well, what is? Okay, this is the most effective method. All I have to do, if I really care about myself in that narcissistic, self-hating kind of way, all I have to do is blame everybody else for causing blonde dumbness. Okay? If I can somehow identify the ways that other people have caused blonde dumbness that allegedly exists, well, then I can successfully cause everyone else to have the same self-hatred that I have. I know that's heavy for 9 whatever in the morning Central Standard Time. I know that's pretty heavy stuff. Okay, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m.-ish Eastern, whatever. This is an eternal video, so it doesn't matter. When I can identify all the things that I've been told about myself and blame them on someone else, I can cause my false self-beliefs to be adopted by others, causing them. It's beautiful. See you later.